You get a little pop-up. And we are now live. Good luck.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'd like to thank all of you who are family caregivers, all of you who are professional caregivers, even committed friends and other family members who are walking this walk, part of our life. This is part of life, part of death. I'd like to say this is a fireside chat, but here it is in the middle of July. And therefore, I'm thinking either a seaside chat or an evening time on the patio with friends and family. My name is Rita Biasi. I am a client care coordinator at Home Instead, Pasadena and Monrovia. I'm here to share some thoughts on grief and loss. A little background on me. Before moving to Pasadena 4 years ago, my husband and I and family were up in the Reno, Nevada area. I received my master's in social work and became a social worker in the area of hospice. For 13 years, I worked as a hospice social worker, and one of my jobs was leading bereavement support groups. That was an amazing opportunity for me to learn what it is to experience loss. And I'd like to share what I learned, share some of the lessons that I learned during that time. The bereavement support groups were divided in half. Part of the time was spent in education. So I would educate those attendees on some aspect of grief and loss. The other half of the time was spent building relationships with one another, analyzing what the experts said, and deciding whether it was true or not. These folks had been in the trenches. They had been through grief and loss. They had helped their loved ones through the dying process. And they were there to support each other and to learn how to get through it. I remember one gentleman, he had been a ranger in the Vietnam War. He had seen some very, very difficult events. He had been behind lines, deep in enemy territory, heavily armed. And he said, what he experienced then in Vietnam was a cakewalk compared to helping his wife through the dying process. That spoke to me. That was probably 15 years ago, but I can still hear his voice telling me that. And I realized here I am facilitating bereavement support groups. I have not had a husband die. I've not had a child die. I think those are probably the most difficult losses to get through. But I learned so much from these people, and that's what I want to share with you today. Getting through the dying process, getting through bereavement, it's not rocket science. It does require support. It's very difficult to do on your own. Everyone grieves differently. Generally speaking, I might be already getting in hot water, but generally speaking, women grieve differently than men. And I'm not saying, what I would like to say is that these bereavement support groups, probably 80% of them were composed of women. But there were always one or two men, and I really appreciated their input and their insight. I don't want to be telling you how to grieve. I want to just give you share some observations with you, and I hope that you will listen to your gut. There is unhealthy coping through grief, It involves drugs, it involves alcohol, it involves deep depression, and then there's healthy coping. And it may be there might be a lot of tears. Hopefully there's support through neighbors, through friends, through relatives. Men normally cope through doing. They process their grief through doing, through tinkering under the car, through going for long runs, through mountain biking and reading books. Women think, oh, my husband isn't grieving appropriately. I don't think it's healthy. He's not talking about it. That's okay, because he is grieving the way he knows how, and we need to give him room to do that. How we are affected by grief. A short story about my own life. Around 2000, my mom moved in with us. She was dying. She was living in her own little mobile home park in her own secluded area with her senior friends, having a good old time. And for years, we asked her to come live with us. Move to Reno. We'll help take care of you. I remember saying that not every time I talked to her, but often, for 8 years. And then came the day when she called me and she said, I think I'm ready to move out. And I thought, well, that's wonderful, Mom. But I'm thinking, we live in a little tiny home and there's up a lot of stairs and there's no room for her. Mom, would you mind giving us a month or two? I'd love to have a bigger home where you are going to be more comfortable. And she said, okay, that's fine. She moved up over Labor Day. I remember that. And she moved into a home where I, at the time, was teaching preschool. I had a son in elementary school, a daughter in middle school, and then there was my husband and I. She was moving from that sterile environment in her little mobile home to just a petri dish of germs. Within 3 weeks, but she was with us, and that is so important. That's what I remember. She was with us. She was not alone. Within 3 weeks, she had caught pneumonia. She spent a couple weeks in the hospital. Then she was transferred to a nursing home. And the doctor said, do you want her to die here or do you want her to die in your home on hospice? And I knew nothing about hospice, so he explained it to me. And I said, well, of course we want her in our own home, and I'd love the support of professionals. I think she was with us a couple more weeks. I was still teaching preschool. There was a block of an hour or two. There was a couple hours block when she was home. She was pretty much bedridden, but our daughter and son were there. And I prayed, Lord, please don't let her go during that period of time when I'm not home. So I entered the home one day. You know what's going to come, right? I entered the home one day and I walked down the hall and peeked in her room and kept walking, thinking to myself, that's not good. I assumed she had passed. Her face was very waxy. And so I just, out of curiosity, said to my daughter, hey, have you talked to Nana recently? And she said, no, I saw her, moving around a little while ago, but I haven't talked to her. Okay, that's good. And I went to our son. Have you talked to Nana recently? No, I've been playing outside. So he's 8, she's 13. And I go in and check on Mom, and indeed she had passed. I go out to the kids and I said, I think Nana has passed away. They come in. My 8-year-old son looks at Nana and says, is she dead? And I said, yeah, I think so. Can I go play? And I said, of course. And so he hightailed it out of there. Our daughter who is not normally a drama queen. She's very even keel, lovely, lovely gal. She collapsed at the bedside and cried and cried and cried. And I'm only thinking, boy, I'm glad this is over. And then I started feeling guilty. Should I feel that way? I called my husband. He came home from work. And we got together and we cried some more. But my point to all this rambling is, were any of those ways of grieving or a response to death, was there something wrong with them? And the answer is no. We responded the way we responded. Our son, 8 years old, he doesn't know what to do with death. He's out of here. Good on him. Our daughter, she loved her Nana so much. And I'm so glad she had those last few months with her. And she did what was normal for her. She wept. I felt a lot of responsibility, working, taking care of kids, getting meals on, and I'm so glad Mom was with us. I was so glad she wasn't alone. But there's a lot of responsibility there. So my response was relief. And we have great faith. I knew that she was in a better place. And so my response was one of relief. We called hospice. The hospice nurse came over. She pronounced her, and we moved forward from there. How we are affected by our grief, by loss, it's going to be different for everyone. I'm going to read a list. It's a little lengthy, but I want you to get my point. Feelings of sadness, numbness, anger, guilt, self-reproach, anxiety, loneliness, fatigue, hopelessness, shock, yearning, and emancipation, relief. Physical sensations, feeling like you're going to throw up, hollowness in your stomach, tightness in your throat, dry mouth, muscle weakness, breathlessness, low energy, oversensitivity to noise. Mental aspects of grief include nothing seems real, disbelief, confusion, preoccupation, sense of the presence of the one who is missing now. Hallucinations. I remember my mom after my dad died. I was 20 when my dad died. Mom said, I thought I saw him in the grocery store yesterday. Am I going crazy? And I've learned through my training that no, Mom, you're not going crazy. This is normal. Behaviors associated with grief: sleep disturbances, appetite disturbances, absent-mindedness, social withdrawal, dreaming of the one you lost, avoiding reminders of the one who's gone, searching, calling out, sighing, restlessness, overactivity, crying, treasuring the objects that belong to the one who's no longer with you. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And to be very honest with you, that is normal grief. There's complicated grief also, disenfranchised grief. There are so many other aspects that we are not going to touch on today. It is a heavy blow to your entire body. Please do not minimize it. In one of my support groups, there was a German woman. She had a thick accent. Well, maybe not so thick. I could understand her. Every time she came to group, she cried. She knew she was in a safe environment and she felt free to cry. And she was embarrassed and she said, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And everyone supported her and gave her a lot of love. She cried for months during support group. 3, 4, 5 months, I don't recall. It was a long time. And that was such a beautiful picture, a graphic picture that, yes, I am improving. And I've shared that with many people. So, key point, please grieve at your own pace. Don't compare yourself with others. You probably have heard of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and her 5 stages of grief. The first one being denial, shock. No, it didn't happen. I can't believe it. The second stage being anger or fear, depending on your personality, and all the other emotions that come with it. That leads to bargaining. Please, so obviously this is happening as maybe a person, a loved one is very, very sick and they're dying. There's some bargaining going on. God, if you will heal my mom, I will, blah, 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 blah. So bargaining. And then depression. And finally, acceptance. That makes sense, doesn't it? But I would like to, if you haven't heard of another psychotherapist, his name is Warden, William Warden. And he has stages or tasks of grief to get you through the process. And that's what I'd like to share with you. 4 stages, or excuse me, 4 tasks that you need to accomplish in the grief process. Accept the reality of the loss. Remember, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross says denial. The first one's denial, then anger, and then fear, and then bargaining. Well, accepting the reality of the loss. I've heard that the furthest distance on the human body is between the mind and the heart. The mind knows that someone has passed away, but the heart is not going to give up. So task 1, accept the reality of the loss. Task 2, experience the pain of the grief. We like to stuff it, don't we? We like to bury it and pretend there's nothing wrong. How are you today? Oh, I'm fine. Experience the grief of the pain. Lean into the grief. Lean into the tears. Lean into the anger. Step 3 of the 4 main tasks. Adjust to a world in which the person who died is missing. If you've lived with a person for 50, 60, or 70 years, you're not going to adjust overnight. It's going to take a long time. And we have to give ourselves that time, our time to grieve. Some people, like my German lady, are crying all the time. But most of us, especially in America, we tend to stuff it, don't we? And we tend to feel uncomfortable around people who can't get it together. Picture this. Your grandson or your daughter at the age of 5 or 6 has a new puppy. And at some point, the puppy escapes, runs into the street and gets run over by a car. Tears, tears, tears. Runs into mom or dad, lots of hugs. But eventually, someone says, "It's okay, little Johnny, we'll get you a new one." What does that communicate? Stop crying, Sally, we'll get you a new one. You continue to grow, and so the grief might be stuffed or put on the back shelf or replaced. Why are you crying? You have a new puppy. We have a lot of grief, a lot of loss we experience even as small children. And then you grow up, you're in high school, you don't make it on the varsity team. You don't make it on the cheerleading squad. There's grief attached to that. There's loss. You apply for colleges, universities, as prestigious schools. You don't make it. There's loss to that. What do we do? Do we acknowledge it? Do we cry? Do we talk to somebody? Or do we stuff it again? In our American culture, we don't handle grief and loss well. We're encouraged to go in the back room and cry and get your emotions out back there, not in front of the rest of the people. We're given 5 days of bereavement time if we're lucky at our job. And then we're supposed to come back and be fine. Have it together. When the Twin Towers fell, I didn't know anyone there, but that affected the whole country. I remember that day driving down the freeway and missing an exit and having to go around and take the next exit. I didn't know any of those people, but I was affected. We were all affected by it. And we grieved as a nation. And we pulled ourselves together a little at a time. Healthy ways of coping don't involve alcohol. They don't involve excessive drugs. They don't involve burying our head in the sand like an ostrich. Find people that you trust and share with them. And realize that you may share the same incident, maybe the dying process. You may share that with them time and time and time again. That was part of our bereavement support group. The older, more seasoned members had an opportunity to share with the newbies. And those older, seasoned members had heard it from each other. They could probably quote each other's stories, but they understood that that was part of the process. Sharing the story is part of the process of acceptance and getting it from the head to the heart. Find a few friends, family members that you can share with that don't mind hearing the story 15 times. That won't be judgmental, and that won't even tell you what to do, but might just listen. Go for a walk together. Give a shoulder to cry on. Maybe have a glass of wine together, but don't use the alcohol to numb, because what happens is if you go into a stupor, you are eventually going to come out of that stupor and you're going to be in the same place you were when you entered it. You will not have gained any ground. So use healthy ways of coping. If you are you were the primary caregiver to your loved one who passed away, you probably put your own needs aside. Let me ask you, when did you last go to a doctor for a physical checkup? When did you last get your teeth cleaned? When did you last get your hair done? It might be a while. It's time to do those things. If your loved one has passed away, it's time to do those things. If he hasn't passed away, you need to reach out to friends and family and say, hey, will you sit with my loved one so I can take care of myself? And going out for coffee with a friend is taking care of yourself. Going for a walk, going for a run, going for a hike, going to the movies. If you trust the movies these days, you need a break. You may need a break from all the tears. You may need to put on a happy movie where you can just laugh, good, strong belly laughs. Or if you have been one that went back to work immediately and have stuffed your emotions, you may need to put on a movie that will cause you to cry and cry and cry and cry. While working in hospice, I had a woman come in. I still remember her coming in to the office saying, "Is there a bereavement counselor I can talk to?" And I said, "Yes, that's me. Let's go talk." Took her into my office and closed the door. And she told me her story and she began to cry. And she wept. She heaved. And I thought, wow, this must be a husband or a child, and it must have just happened. And I let her cry and cry and cry. And once she composed herself, I think it was 15 or 20 minutes at least, she started telling me her story again. I remember this being in, I think it was March or April. And I thought, and she said, my husband died, it was in February. And I thought, well, that's understandable. It hasn't been very long. But the more she talked, the more I realized I wasn't getting it. And tell me again when he died. It was the year before. So it had been 13 or 14 months since he died. She had 2 teenage daughters. She had to be strong for them. She taught kindergarten. She had to be on top of it, bright and cheerful and bubbly for those students of hers. She stuffed her grief for 13, 14 months. I hate to say it, but she was not a good role model to her kids. She needed to cry in front of them. She needed to weep. She needed to get the emotions out to give them permission to do so also. I tell people, what's it going to be? Ulcers or tears? It's okay to cry. People will understand. And if they don't understand, then we need to educate them. It's okay to cry. I've been told that the tears we cry when we grieve have a different chemical makeup, different chemistry than the tears that we cry when we are cutting an onion. Those tears of grief actually carry toxins. They're getting rid of toxins in our body. I'm sure you've experienced having a good cry and feeling and saying to yourself or to someone else, "Oh, I feel so much better." Yeah, you feel so much better because you're releasing those toxins. I want to encourage you to think about, if you are new to the grief process and you have lost a loved one recently, please think about the anniversaries that are going to come up over the next year. It might be holidays, the first Christmas, the first Thanksgiving. It might be birthdays, your first birthday, your loved one's first birthday. Please don't ignore them. Look at them just head on. Maybe ask for help. Maybe ask a family member. Say, your dad's birthday is coming up, and I want to do something special. Have a little family powwow. What can we do for Dad that would make him laugh? That we could acknowledge what he is in our lives still today. He made a big impact when he was alive, but he's still making an impact today. I had a woman, I will not forget this. She was dying, And it was a long process, and she took advantage of that process. She wrote letters to her daughter. For her daughter's 16th birthday, there was a letter. For her 21st birthday, there was a letter. For her graduation from college, there was a letter. Wow. And her husband pulled those letters out at the proper time and shared those letters with their daughter. Wow, what a gift. Amazing. You may want to plant a tree in memory. If you have a young grandchild, you may want them to color a picture for grandma. I went to a training. I am not a therapist, I'm a counselor. I have no training as a therapist, but I've received a lot of training from therapists. And we had 3 generations of loved ones. We had the wife, the mom, and the little daughter. And they wanted to do something. And I said, I just attended a training and it was amazing and I want to share it with you. So I went over to their home and I had them ahead of time gather some magazines. And I said, what did your husband, what did he enjoy? Hobbies, vacation time, what did you do together? He liked cooking, he had a motorcycle, he liked cars. And so I said, gather some magazines that have those as the theme. And if you have some photographs that you don't mind cutting up, bring those. And we spent the afternoon creating collages. The little grandchild created a collage. The wife created a collage. The mother created a collage. And they were filled with pictures of what dad, husband, son meant to that individual. And there was also, they cut out phrases from magazines that they would remember their loved one with, or maybe their loved one said those phrases. It was an amazing afternoon of therapy for them. I would encourage you to do something like that, whether it's with a family member or on your own, or a process of adding to a collage over a period of time. You may want to make a birthday cake on his day and share it with loved ones, neighbors, friends. Remember his favorite flavor. The experts say postpone major decisions. That makes sense. Selling a home, they want you to get your wings level, get some perspective. If you have support where you are, stay put. We had a woman in an assisted living facility, and I mentioned that to her, but her daughter who lived out of town encouraged her to come live with them, and they found a place nearby where she could be in an assisted living facility, and the kids were always over there. She made new friends. That happened within a few months. I really wouldn't suggest that for everybody, but it worked for them. So you have to be open-minded. Process your grief through writing in a journal or writing a letter to your loved one. Dear loved one, no one's going to see this letter. And write about what you miss, or write about the fun things you did. That helps process the grief. It helps you accept the reality that that person is gone. Here's some more help through grief. Admit you're hurting and go with the pain. Apply cold or heat, whatever feels best. Accept and ask for help. Stop asking why and ask, what will I do now? I don't agree with that one. Stop asking why. That's natural. Why did this happen? You're not going to get an answer, but why did it happen? Why did that person go? Why did God let them go? That's part of the process. And asking, what am I going to do now? Just puts more stress on you. What you're going to do now is grieve. Okay? And hopefully you have some family members that will help you cope with all the other things that are going on. But your job is grieving. Recognize that a bad day does not mean that all is lost. Remember that calendar and writing those happy faces. Rest, exercise, keep to a routine, eat well, even if it means calling a friend to ask them. Maybe go out to dinner with them or ask them if someone has said, what can I do? Could you make a real green salad for me and bring it over and we could eat it together on the porch? Introduce pleasant changes to your life. Some people have been caregiving for 5, 10, 15 years. And now, what do I do now? Wow, what an adjustment. I met a woman who was 20. She never knew her dad when he was not ill. That mom of hers, the wife of the patient, had been caring for him for over 15 years. What are you going to do now? That's going to take some adjusting. It's going to take time. It's going to take support. There are lots of bereavement support groups through hospitals, through Cancer Society, through Alzheimer's Association, through the USC Caregiver Support group. Get online, type in grief support groups. There are chat groups that you can connect with. It is amazing how you can process your grief, and you're a step away. It's not so in your face. You have control over it, and maybe they don't have to see you on the computer. Some people like that better. Know that you will survive. You will get through this. Take care of something alive, such as a plant or a pet. Very funny story. One of those group members up in Reno, her husband did everything, took care of her, and now she was alone and she was grieving. But there came a time when she kind of realized that, hey, I got to learn to do this on my own. And she got to the point where I'm going to take a trip. Get this, she's in Reno. She decides to drive. She didn't even tell anybody. She drove to Las Vegas. That's at least a 9-hour drive. Oh, by the way, I don't know why, I forgot. I'm sure I asked her and she told me, but I forgot why. She took her goldfish with her. She put the goldfish in a cup, put it in the cup dispenser. Let's hope she didn't get confused and drink the water. I guess she wanted some company. She drove to Las Vegas. She filled up with gas, got back in her car, and drove back to Reno. What a sense of empowerment. She survived. She can do this. Her husband did everything for her in the past. Now she was learning to do it on her own. That trip empowered her. Find someone who needs your help. When you are first grieving, there's nothing else you can do but grieve. That's okay, do that. But as the weeks and months go by, I had one gentleman say, he looked in the mirror and he said, I am sick of this. And he went out and found a part-time job. Another woman was on a walk and realized, there's an elementary school up the street. I wonder if they need, she was a teacher. She had been an elementary school teacher. I wonder if they need a volunteer. Others get involved with the Cancer Society as a volunteer, or they go down to Huntington Hospital and they become a volunteer. But you can't do that until you're ready. Do something you enjoy. Maybe take an art class, learn how to paint, learn a new language. Don't overdo, take one day at a time. Those are some great ideas. If you want me to fax or email this list to you, it's from, it's a book from University of Nevada in Reno, copyright 1995 by Mary Lou Hughes on bereavement and support. I would be happy to send you this. So the stages of grief. There are stages, there are tasks, but picture a pinball machine. You push that clicker or whatever it's called, and that pinball shoots out and it's bouncing all over the place. 1 minute you're angry, 1 minute you're sad, 1 minute you're happy, 1 minute, I think I got this. And the next minute you're depressed. Remember that pinball machine. That's what it's like going through grief and bereavement. And people don't know you are grieving. If someone walked into my office with a broken leg and had a big cast on, I would immediately pull out a chair. I would immediately have them sit down. What can I do? Let me get you a glass of water. That doesn't happen when you're grieving. It's all inside. Maybe they see in your face that you're not quite right, but they might be too busy to even ask. Understand that people, we're all busy in our society. You may need to speak up, say, sorry, I am grieving. I'm not at my best. I'm having a hard time processing what you're saying to me. Could you slow down and say it again? It's okay. It's okay to do that. Lastly, looking at the world with the new eyes. That's when you see the elementary school up the street and say, well, maybe I still have some life in me. Maybe they could use a volunteer. That's when you reach out to your neighbor, maybe someone who's older, and say, can I come help rake leaves in your yard? You know, or can I bring over a meal to you? It's intentional. You need to pull yourself, at some point, you need to pull yourself up. I see myself, if I were grieving, just hiding under the bed. At some point, I need to get up. I need to pull my head out of the sand and get up and move on, but not until I'm ready. Again, it's not rocket science. You know yourself best. Let me read that one quote by William Worden again. Withdrawing emotional energy from the person who has died and reinvesting that energy in life and the living. And that's at that point, you will always grieve. 20 years after your loved one has died, you will still be grieving. But there comes a time when you can reinvest in others. I'd like to mention a couple of books that are very helpful to seniors who, and also to adult children who have parents who are still living and need help through this stage in their life. One is called Stages of Senior Care, your step-by-step guide to making the best decisions. This was written by Paul and Lori Hogan, who are the founders of Home Instead Senior Care. It is an amazing book. It goes through Practical things. You as a caregiver, aging, family care, non-medical care at home, medical care at home, retirement and independent living communities, skilled nursing homes, hospice care, funeral services, bereavement, complicating ailments and issues, difficult situations, financing care. Don't forget yourself. So, stages of senior care, an excellent resource. The other one is How to Care for Aging Parents by Virginia Morris, a one-stop resource for all your medical, financial, housing, and emotional issues. An excellent resource. Workman Publishing, New York. So another excellent resource for you. So at this point, I would like to open it up for questions, if there are any. I've got a couple of questions that came in yesterday. How do you support someone who is grieving? I have a handout on that. If you want to support someone who is grieving, get in touch with them. Telephone. Talk to them or talk to a family member. Let them know, I am available. I can bring over a dish, a meal. I can go run errands. I can buy groceries. I can come mow the lawn. There is a lot of attention in the beginning. But what about 4 months down the line? When the spouse is, things are really setting in then. This, they might be running on adrenaline for the first month. But 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the line, it starts hitting home for them. This is permanent and it is ugly. That's when you need to call. Adult daughters and sons, don't assume that your mom or dad, oh, they're doing fine, it's all good. You need to be calling them regularly. I don't know what that means to you, daily, weekly, every other week, but don't assume that they're doing okay. You need to call and say, hey, Mom, I'm just worried about you. And I know that this is probably getting old, being by yourself. Can I come take you out to dinner? Or why don't we plan a vacation together? I don't know what it is. You know your mom, you know your dad. Listen to this, say little on the first visit. In the initial period before, even before the funeral, they just need a hug. They need to know you're there. What you should not say, I know how you feel. Well, you don't. Don't feel bad. Remember the little puppy that died? Little Johnny, don't feel bad. We'll go get you another one. Oh, that hurts. Please don't cry, not in public. It's embarrassing me. No, tough. Just make sure you have a lot of Kleenex with you. Be prepared. Be strong for others. Keep a stiff upper lip. Keep busy. You need to get hold of yourself. It's been 3 weeks. She's not in pain anymore. I think that's good to say, but I don't say it until the one who is grieving says it. And I follow it up with, yeah, she's not in pain anymore, but I can tell you are. Acknowledge the loss. Oh, here's one. Well, be thankful she lived that long. I wanted her to live for another 20 years. Another one. I'm sorry your son died. Do you have any more children? Again, let's replace the one who died. That's not going to help, folks. So it's better just to keep your mouth shut and go off of what the grieving person is saying. Acknowledge that. God will never give you more than you can handle. You know, it doesn't say that anywhere in the Bible. He does give us tons, and we need help to handle it. Yeah, he'll help us, but sometimes it does feel like he's giving you a lot more than you can handle, and I think we need to acknowledge that. So as a person trying to help someone else, be practical. How can I help? What can I do? It might be, you know, you might even need to push a little bit. I'm not doing anything Saturday morning. I was wondering if you were available to go to breakfast together. So you may need to push a little bit so that they really know that you are genuinely offering to help. Do not be afraid to cause tears. Oh no, I said the wrong thing and now they're crying. You know what you've just done is they feel comfortable crying around you. Let them cry. And it's okay if you shed a few tears too. They'll feel more comfortable if you have some tears to shed. I think that's all. Let me see if there were any other questions. Let's see. How can you start yourself to grieve? I constantly feel like I am ignoring this process. Yes, we stuff it. We stuff our grief and we don't, you know, we know that it's bottled up inside and we don't know how to get it out. So somebody suggested, get out, maybe late at night when it's dark and drive down the freeway and scream your head off. Nobody's going to know. One of the therapies people used to do, of course, we don't have these anymore. Phone books, remember the thick phone books? Rip those phone books up into little pieces or punch a pillow. Or like I said, watch a movie that will make you cry or watch a movie that will make you laugh, whatever you need. You feel like you've been fired. So you've been caring, as a professional caregiver, you've been hired to take care of somebody and now they're gone. Wow. And maybe you're a little younger and you haven't experienced a lot of death. How do you cope? I encourage caregivers to start a journal and write about what they've learned. What did that person teach you? What did you enjoy doing with them? There are boundaries here, professional boundaries, and you may want to talk to your supervisor about contacting a loved one. So that if it's a husband and wife and you were there providing care for the husband, that wife you no longer have contact with. And it's I want to tread lightly here. You might want to contact your supervisor and said, I'd like to call and see how she's doing, but I don't know if I should. So, and that's right. You need to check with your supervisor and see if it's okay. It might be that the supervisor, the client care coordinator in our case, would call the family and say, hey, the caregiver was reaching out. They want to make sure you're doing okay. They're even interested in a phone call, and I don't want to overstep our bounds. So would you like to talk to them on the phone or not? And if you don't want to, that's fine. And we'll have that caregiver come in and talk to us. But sometimes even as a family member, if you've been caring for your loved one for several years and now you've just lost your job and you might feel like you've been fired and there's some negative connotations, remind yourself you did an amazing job. That loved one you took care of this whole time and you helped them through the most difficult part of your life. I have seen ex-spouses come and care for their ex-spouse during hospice days. Wow, that's commitment, right? Maybe they didn't see eye to eye on things, but they saw that the father or mother of their children is in need. And so they went back and they took care of them. Kudos to you. Wow, that's amazing. How can you ask someone to give you space or time to grieve without offending the person wanting to comfort you? You really just need to be honest. You need to communicate with them and say, hey, thank you so much for being so concerned about me, but I just need some space. And perhaps, why don't I call you at another time? Or if you're the one wanting to support them, here's my phone number. I hope you'll call. And do you mind if I call you in 2 weeks if I don't hear from you? That gives them some breathing room. Email's great. They can, if you have each other email addresses, you can talk whenever you feel like it. And it's a little less invasive. How do you support someone that is grieving when they are constantly pushing me away? You need to allow them to push you away. You need to give them that freedom. If they're pushing you away, you know, they know their gut, they just want to leave you, they want to be left alone for a while. Touch base with them in a few weeks. So I think that's enough for, I've been to your ear long enough. Again, this is Rita Biasi. I'm from Home Instead Senior Care, Pasadena and Monrovia. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.